we'll move on. We'll keep it in the NFL, but we'll talk about some NFL coaching. We're at the midway point of the season now.
That's crazy, man.
It is crazy. It's gone by so quick. I know.
Those 8 weeks go by quick. But before you know it, we'll have no football.
It sucks, dude. I hate how quick it goes. Got to enjoy it. But we are in a good time of year. We got all 4 major sports going on, and then we've got in a couple days college basketball going. So we'll have college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA. We got the World Series on. I mean, best time in sports.
Gotta love college basketball. I'm ready for that too.
I can't wait for college basketball. But we'll talk a little bit about NFL coaches, and let's talk kind of like I'm going to give you a coach, and you tell me, would you keep them like long term?
Yeah.
Would you give them just till the end of the year to see what happens, or would you fire them immediately? Gotcha. So I'm going to give you some coaches. You tell me, and I'll give you my quick take afterwards. Okay, let's start with a very popular one, Brandon Staley.
I would give him till the end of the year. I don't think they're going to end up keeping him, but I'd give him the end of the year because I don't think bringing anybody in right now gives him a better chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to end up keeping him, but a lot of injuries on that team. You're without Mike Williams. Your Eckler's been out, I guess, probably, 3 or 4 of the weeks. He's been out quite a bit. The defensive secondary is hellacious. And, I mean, I know he's the defensive guy, but I just think they don't have a lot of talent on the back end of that. I think there's also been some injuries there. I would give him to the end of the year. I don't think they're going to end up keeping him. I probably wouldn't, it just depends how the rest of the year goes. But I don't think firing him now does him any good.
Yeah, I would fire him right fucking now. Yeah.
I know you hate him.
Fuck Brandon Staley.
I know you hate him.
I'd fire him right fucking now. and that's with it knowing that the head coach in waiting right now for the rest of the season would be Kellen Moore. And the only reason I would fire him now is so that I actually think Kellen Moore is worse than Brandon Staley. And I think at this point you fucking tank and get a good, draft pick, help your offensive line out, fucking shore up the secondary for God's sake. You traded away J.C. Jackson. You have the worst secondary in the history of football, and, it's just embarrassing.
What happened with J.C. Jackson? Because I heard, I forgot who it was. I think someone at Barstool was talking about. They have one guy that's a diehard Chargers fan, and he wrote an article 2 or 3 years ago, and they got him and said, best day in Charger football history when they got him.
Yeah.
And he said, this aged well. Apparently, he was just fucking horrible there, though.
Was he?
That's what I heard. Dude, New England got him back, right?
For a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't
know. I would be interested to look at Pro Football Focus or something and see what how he was, because they were saying that he was not this guy, and I don't watch the Chargers enough, but was saying he was not good and the experiment did not go well. What did they give? Did they just sign him as a free agent, or did they give something to
I thought they traded to get him initially, but I could be wrong.
I don't know.
Regardless, I know that they got him back. Here's my thing. You have a horrible secondary unit. You had to have known that going into the year. So it's okay, so you trade him away for a 6th-round pick. What are you getting with a 6th-round pick? Just keep him. Even if he's bad, what does it matter? They're probably trying to clear cap space, but it's just why?
At that point, yeah, I guess it's probably about the cap space and whatever, but was it before the year started they traded him, or was it just, I thought it was a couple weeks ago.
I thought it was before the year. Maybe it was a couple weeks ago. I thought it was before the year.
Maybe it was.
No, you might, no, I think it was before the season started.
The only reason I say I think it was, because I remember seeing that article and it not being before the season, but maybe he was just talking about it.
I guess
saying that trading, maybe he was saying,
it says 4 weeks ago, so.
Yeah, so.
I mean, to me, it's just maybe that's why. Maybe he was so bad in the first 4 weeks, they were let's get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But you're right. I mean, at that point, if you have people behind him that are just as bad, then what's the...
Why is Bill Belichick trading back for him?
Because Bill Belichick thinks when someone is good with Bill Belichick, there's been several players like that have gone back to the Patriots
because they're bad elsewhere.
Yeah, elsewhere. And then I'm trying to think. I think Van Noy was one of those guys.
Oh yeah,
Didn't he leave and they
Kyle
got him
Van
back?
Noy.
Dude, so the conspiracy theories around the league is that Belichick sends out his spies to get information on these teams and play really fucking bad, and then tells them, don't worry, you come back, we'll give you another contract when you come back. That's a conspiracy. Yes. And he sends coordinators and shit out to do the same thing. They had someone on a part of my take the other day, and they was talking about it. He worked as a special advisor to the Patriots. So Big Cat was like, so when the Patriots sent you off to go be with the Titans, and brought you back home, how did that go? And he's cracking up. He's like, you know the conspiracies on that. And the guy's like, Yeah, I do. You know, it's like I'm just cracking up.
Bringing back full reports.
Yeah, what kind of intel did you bring back to Bill?
That's right, man. Bill is what. Let's stick on Bill. Give me. Would you keep Bill? Give him till the end of the year. Fire him immediately.
He's one of those guys, man, that you just I call it what you want, but I mean you can't. He's, in my opinion, you can't fire him.
Can't ever fire him.
You can. I think him and Bob Kraft can have a conversation that like, hey, Bill, at the end of this year, if things aren't working out, like, and you want to resign, whatever, something like that. He'll never just be outright fired. Although Bill Belichick's kind of the guy that's like, no, I'm not gonna fucking resign. You got to fire me, and he knows it probably won't happen. Like Robert Kraft probably won't do it. They've had so much success and won enough Super Bowls for like 2 lifetimes.
Yeah.
That it's like you can't fire Bill Belichick. I know the age old was it Brady or is it Belichick? That kind of deal. But I think Bill Belichick's a pretty good coach. I think Mac Jones fucking sucks.
He does. He's fucking horrible.
I mean,
he's fucking awful.
And I don't think Belichick's son's necessarily great either. But he's there calling the defensive plays. But
yeah, we're on to Cincinnati. That's right. We're on to Cincinnati. But yeah, I would keep him too. I don't think you can get rid of him. I don't think the only guy. I don't necessarily 100% agree with the fact that, like, I do agree. Like, especially for the NFL, when you won that many Super Bowls, it's hard to fire a guy like that. My only argument for it would be like, I think the Spurs should fire Greg Popovich, and so I'm gonna get just absolutely annihilated in the San Antonio media for that. But I've said it for multiple years. I think he's done, and he did the same thing. But he's also had a decade of shit. It's been a full decade since they've been relevant, the Spurs. And Bill, it's been at least, they've won in the past, what was it, like 5 years ago, something like that. It wasn't insanely long ago that they won with Brady. So, I would keep him.
Yeah, you kind of can relate it to like a crazy college professor that's so tenured you can't do anything to get rid of them.
Yeah.
It's just like, they're like, well, they've been really good for a long time, and, if we fire them, it's going to cost us a lot of money anyway. And it's like, the public backlash, it just seems like
not worth
better
it.
off just keeping them.
We'll move on to Mike McCarthy, Dallas Cowboys.
It's another one that, for me, I think he's horrible, but you keep till the end of the year.
Keep till the end of the year.
Decision. I don't know who they would. I mean, I guess you could fire him and throw Dan Quinn in there, but we're not going to. I mean, the Cowboys are what? They're 1 game away from being the NFC leaders. Now, what I'll say about it is I don't necessarily, hopefully his play calling goes as well as it did this last Sunday.
Yeah.
They keep throwing the ball down the field like we've already touched on a little bit. And, he stays aggressive.
Right.
It's not in his nature to do that. But if he does, I think the Cowboys will benefit from that. I don't think Mike McCarthy is a bad head coach. And let me touch on that a little bit. As you know, head coaches, you're more of a, you're sitting up there as kind of a CEO making certain decisions, but as far as like the
finger on the pulse guy.
Yeah. And so that's the deal with it, is he's a pretty good legislator of a team, and I think people kind of like him. I don't think people hate him, and he doesn't. For me, he's a fine head coach. As a play caller, I've never liked him. That's what I would say.
No, I agree. I thought after the 49ers game that they were going to at least switch play callers. That's what I thought. But I also think it's been a joint thing. Like I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I know with them it's a joint thing. It's Schottenheimer and him are calling the plays together. He's making the decision, but it's like a 50-50 type deal. But for McCarthy, I would keep him till the end of the year too. I don't, like I said, like there's times where I'm like, this guy's fucking horrible. He's awful. And then other times I'm like, yeah, but that was a pretty good performance right there. Like it feels like him getting the team ready to play. He has times where he does a good job, right? Like they win their home games. They tend to bounce back from losses pretty well. They have these stinkers that just bother the shit out of me. But I just don't know. In game, he's just bad to me. That's the problem with him. In game, he's a bad coach. But I would keep him until the end of the year.
I think we should do one more. I think we were talking about it earlier, and then I just saw something. I think Ron Rivera.
Okay, here, go ahead. Go Ron Rivera.
I think they should. I think they should actually get rid of him now. He's one of those guys where I don't think keeping him around is. But I don't think he calls any of the play. He doesn't call. He doesn't call any of the plays. I don't think he calls the defense.
No.
I think he's just out there being the head coach, and I think they're definitely not keeping him past the season. So at this point, I guess just and this is another thing that I say do. I don't love the guy, but I would say just go ahead and give Bieniemy the keys now, because he's going to be the head coach in waiting perhaps at the end of the year.
That's why they brought him in.
Yes. So give him these 8 games to see how he does and see if you want to hire him for next year.
Right.
I think that's the smartest thing to do if you're them.
That's a great point. They should have fired him and just given Bieniemy the job the start of the year.
Agreed, yeah.
Especially when you have a young quarterback like Sam Howell, who they're betting on because they could have tried to draft somebody and they didn't. And it's like, okay, so we're betting on Sam Howell. We're bringing in this offensive coordinator who we think is really good. Give him the keys from the start. They didn't do that. At least like you're saying, you get to see a half-year sample size if you fire him now. I completely agree. I'd get rid of him.
Because I'm not sold on Bieniemy anyway. So
Me either.
My whole thing is, I don't want to waste another year, right? Use this 8 weeks and say, hey, look, this is your
audition.
Trial, audition, whatever. Yeah. Go for it. See how you do these 8 games. And look, the team's competitive. They could have beaten the Eagles both times they played them. They have talent. I was listening to someone talk about that. I mean, good defensive line, some decent weapons on offense. Sam Howell's, kind of I know you hate him. Your dad loves him. I would call him like a modern-day Jay Cutler. Just kind of throws it all over the place. But, yeah, I think you give Bieniemy the keys now to see what happens going forward.
I agree with that. I want to see, I just don't like Rivera. I think he's horrible. And I would like to see, honestly, like you said, I want to see Bieniemy as a head coach. I want to see the difference in how he handles Sam Howell as a head coach versus the OC, because I think a lot of these games, Howell actually does some things and makes some throws that are good. And then he has just there were some baffling throws yesterday, like the 2 incompletions at the end of the game, wide open receiver. And yes, the receivers had chances to catch him, but they're receivers with nobody or with 10 yards around them, and he's throwing it at their fucking feet. He threw an interception when they were tied that basically lost them the game. It's just, I would like to see how he handles Howell. And I think you get a good view on both of them going into next year. Okay, if we're playing well and on the uptick and we're making improvements, we'll keep them both and give them a couple years. If not, we can try to draft somebody because we're going to have a losing season if they do poorly anyway, and we can go look for a different head coach. I mean, to me, that's a good point. We'll go quickly to a couple more. Give me Matt LaFleur.
Keep him to the end of the season. Getting rid of him now. The team sucks. Like you said, Jordan Love, I think that experiment's over. I think you see them draft somebody. It's going to be interesting. My brother was bringing this up. What happens in that division to Justin Fields now that the Bears are going to have that probably the first 2 picks in the draft, and they're going to draft the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting what they do with Fields. I think there's going to be a lot of interested teams around the league that, try. And my brother made it the point, is if you're the Packers, why don't you try to get Fields?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what he's like. I mean, dude, when you let him play and just let him do his thing, he puts up video game style numbers sometimes. He's had some real bad games too. But his whole point was, you taking a shot with him is probably better than wasting a first round pick,
Yeah.
Getting the 3rd or 4th guy off the board this year. You're probably better off going with Fields and seeing what happens.
I agree. I think that's not a bad idea at all. I do think you keep LaFleur only because I think you're. What are they have? They have a 1st round draft pick this year?
I don't know.
Assuming they do have a 1st round draft pick.
I guess they have to.
They have to.
What did they get for Rodgers?
I think they got a pick swap. I think they get the better of the 2 picks, but I don't think it's next year.
Okay.
I don't think the Jets gave up a 1st round pick. They might have given up 1.
They
said that they didn't want to.
Was it 1? Did they give up 1 1st round pick? Or a second? They gave up a 1st or a second. I can't remember what it was.
I could have sworn it was a 1st round
swap.
I thought it was a 1st round pick swap. It was.
Could have been.
Let's see. The Rodgers and their 2023 1st round pick, and a 2023 5th round pick to the Jets. For the Jets' 2023 1st round pick, a 2023 2nd round pick, a 2023 6th, and a conditional 2024 2nd round pick that becomes a 1st if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps this season, which obviously didn't happen. So they didn't get all the picks were from last year.
So basically they got a 2nd round pick.
They got a 2nd round pick because they swapped 1st rounders in 2023, essentially is what they did.
Got it.
Because they traded each other their picks, and it was just the number 13 pick went to the went to the Packers, and the 15th pick went to the Jets. And then
they only moved up 2 spots.
They moved up 2 spots, and they got a second rounder and a sixth rounder.
And they figured they would get another second-round pick if he played, but
they figured it would be it's a second-round pick. It's a first if he played 65% of the games, it would turn into a first. So since he didn't, it's going to be a second rounder.
So they did get 2 second rounders.
So they got 2 second rounders.
Oh, that's not too bad.
2 second rounders and a sixth, essentially, and then moved up 2 spots. Regardless, if I'm the Packers, I'm keeping Matt LaFleur only because I think you want to lose as many games as possible. I think he's a fucking moron. And
I don't mind Matt LaFleur that bad.
Hot take of the week, okay? And I saw somebody said something similar to this on Twitter. Aaron Jones must have a fucking illegitimate kid with Matt LaFleur's wife because it makes no fucking sense.
Love child.
I mean, why the fuck you put A.J. Dillon's big, fat, slow ass in the game for 2 yards of fucking carry every single game? I mean, 50% of the snaps, half as efficient. It makes no sense, and it's been going on for way too long. He must have something against him. I don't understand what it is. I saw somebody say something similar.
I wonder if it was like that. What's his name? Steve Nash.
Steve Nash and
Jason Richardson. Like in the room, and little AJ Dillon comes out. Kid's a tank. Kid comes out a tank. Just dark in a tank, like AJ Dillon's kid. He knew right away when he saw that.
It's a shade too dark there.
Just a shade too
dark.
He's got to have something on him because, like I said, the only thing I can think of maybe is workload issues. But, I mean, you brought it up off air, that they've been screwing Aaron Jones for like 4 years on his carries and always bringing A.J. Dillon to try to get him touchdowns. And
so stupid.
Very, very strange.
I was losing my mind yesterday when they were on the 1 yard line just running it to fucking Dillon and getting stuffed every time. It's just the story of my life having Aaron Jones on my fantasy team. But I truly, this has been going on for 4 years. Like, it just makes no sense.
Brutal.
Last one real quick. Sean McDermott is one you wouldn't think that's on the hot seat. But the Bills continually underperform. They have Super Bowl expectations the last couple of years and disappointed last year. They've been disappointing this year. Obviously you wouldn't fire him now, but
yeah, definitely not fire him now. I guess we'll have to see how the year plays out. I would say that if they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, you probably got to look somewhere else, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just hard to fire a guy. If they do make it to the AFC Championship game and lose, to me, it's just really hard to fire a guy because, in the NFL, you're playing, it's one game, right? You don't get the benefit of a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Like if you're loaded as an NBA head coach and you're losing these 7-game series and not making adjustments, whatever, NFL, it's 60 minutes and there could be one drop here, one penalty there that decides your season. So for me, it's so hard to fire a guy if they make it to the AFC Championship game. But if they do get bounced, it doesn't look like they're probably not going to be the team that ends up getting the bye, right?
Yeah, no,
I guess maybe.
Not. They might not even win their division with Miami.
Yeah, with Miami there. I mean, I would say that I think they probably will end up winning the division.
They probably will.
Because they got the head-to-head. I'm sure that, they got to play one more time.
They're going to beat them again.
I would think so, too. But, it would have to play that one out to the end of the year and see. So
yeah, I would keep him, too. But I would say this. I'd be really... If I'm the GM in Buffalo, I'm monitoring that closely because I think you're really regretting, not that I think Daboll's a great head coach, but the success you had with the offense when he was there, I think what you should have done is, at that point, it would have been really hard to fire McDermott, but I would have just promoted Daboll and got rid of Sean McDermott because you have a quarterback like that. You want an offensive guy there. Like, it just, and the defense,
Agreed, yeah.
I mean, the defense has underperformed since then, and it feels like McDermott, and I've heard this from multiple people around the league, that he has his finger on that offense telling them what to do. Daboll and him butted heads back when he was the OC. It's happening with Ken Dorsey now, and it's like, if I'm Ken Dorsey, I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to run my offense, and if you fire me because of it, at least I know I can tell people what happened in interviews down the line, but I'm not going to run Sean McDermott's, plays and smash my head into a wall 10, 15, 20 times a game for no reason. So we'll see what happens with him. But